Hello and welcome to this week's live. If you're online live watching, just say hello in the chat. I won't be watching comments because I don't have access to see from the platform I'm streaming from, so I'll check them after the live finishes. And if you're watching a replay, just give me a hashtag replay. I'd love to see that you've been passed, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. So we're talking today about overthinking, that brain activity, that problem solving, that rehashing of the past, that sick feeling in your stomach, that can't sleep at night, that 3 a.m. wakes me up, can't let it go, over and over, the same pathways in the brain, just feeling tormented or overly busy, that non-stop chatter, doing reruns of the same thing, or perhaps you're going out into the future and living your next day. I know I do all of those things or have done all of those things in the past. So I want to talk about this because this is so prevalent when we have anxiety or depression, both anxiety and depression, and especially with PTSD, there's that flashback thing, that rerunning of the looping of those videotapes in the mind, and they're all related, whether it's the full PTSD or whether you're just up at 3 a.m. unable to sleep or hashing through the following day. So what is it that makes us not be able to shut down our brain, not be able to think, not be able to replay conversations? What is it that is the difference between somebody who can just be in the moment at peace, accepting and relaxed, and somebody who is so busy in their mind, hashing through stuff and revisiting? So the difference, I can tell you that there are only 3 problems that anyone can possibly have when it comes to our identity, our self-worth, our fitting into the world, and that is what I call the 3 A's, and you might have heard me speak of these before. The first one is feeling adequate. Now, if I feel inadequate, what is that going to mean? What's that going to make? It's going to mean that I'm going to have that fear that something I said wasn't good enough, something I did wasn't good enough, that something I need to do tomorrow won't be good enough, just that feeling that I can't deal with stuff, feeling that people are judging me, feeling that maybe I looked stupid or that I'm going to look stupid, I'm going to stuff something up. The second one is feeling accepted or acceptable. And when we don't feel accepted, we don't belong, we don't fit in, we're inadequate, all that sort of thing, we have what's the simplest way to put it is a fear of rejection or exclusion, that feeling that I don't belong, and maybe feeling like even like a fraud. Now, if you go about your day and you feel like you don't belong, of course you're going to be overthinking. If you feel that you're inadequate, that somehow you're not good enough, of course you're going to be overthinking, because your nervous system is saying, look, you're not good enough, you don't belong here, you don't fit in, you're not worthy, all that sort of stuff. The third one of the 3 A's is able. So talking about, do I have enough ability? Am I capable? And if we feel incapable, that means that sense of powerlessness. So we get that fear of rejection. We get that fear of failure. So having a fear of failure. Now, if you are thinking about your next day and you're laying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and you feel like you don't have, you're inadequate, you're unacceptable, and you're incapable, you're going to feel very, very stressed. If you have those 3 things, if you don't have the 3 A's and you have the inadequacy, feeling unacceptable, like you don't belong, and feeling incapable, then you're also going to all hash through everything else from the past, because there's also that sense that, like, what if people don't like what I did, what I said, or the frustration, the anger of things that other people did. That person did this person did that person didn't do what needed, whatever, or worrying. It's basically like you're not in the present moment because you're either in the past or you're in the future. There's not that much to think about if you're in the present. There's not that much to think about in the moment that you are currently in. Now, what part of the whole thing about overthinking is to beat ourselves up, is to tell ourselves that we didn't do something well. I'm going to shut this window because it's just the night birds are going nutty. Beating yourself up, being stuck in a past situation where, you know, you're rehashing it in your mind, or you're thinking about what you could have done differently or how it could have turned out differently, just replaying stuff. And the other thing is going into the future where you are playing out, like over preparing, fear. A lot of perfectionist people overthink, actually, because there's a lot of planning to be done in order to be, you know, maintain that perfection. There's a lot of planning to be done in order to avoid failure. So overthinking is basically caused when you're trying to move away from those feelings of judgment, rejection, failure, you know, feeling stupid or worthless or not doing things right, making mistakes, all that sort of stuff. Or somebody's crossed you, hurt you, let you down, disappointed you, and you wish things were different. It's hard not to overthink this stuff when things aren't the way you want them, or you're worried that they're going to turn out in ways that you don't want. So it's all about the I don't want this, or I don't want to feel that, or I don't want whatever. So you're always wishing either something was different or planning to make it different in the future. And that causes huge discomfort. Look, it happens to all of us. Look, I mean, I can think of a situation that happened just recently. I don't normally swear. I used a swear word in a context, and I really worried, you know, how did that come across? How did that make me look? How did it make the other person feel in that situation, in that moment? And so I really played it back on my mind. I was like really regretful that I had not done something a different way. And so I was kind of like not comfortable with what had happened. So when we're not comfortable with something that's happened, we can't reconcile it. We can't put it to bed. We can't file it away. So it keeps coming up. It's like, oh, that's a horrible feeling. And it keeps coming up. Oh, I feel really awful and I can't stop thinking about it, and it keeps going down. So there's a few different types. I think you can understand from what I'm saying. There's different causes of overthinking, and there's different types of overthinking. There's those past situations where the emotion is still active and they keep coming up for resolution, and it's like, oh, I can't resolve this. And I'll give you a tip on how to deal with that in a moment, because there are really powerful tips on how to deal with that. Or there's I'm laying in bed at night and my mind's whirring and it's all about the future, and you just can't shut down and go to sleep. So I'll address both of those basic things of overthinking. And then obviously there's the third one, which is like the paranoia, the paranoid worry. Like you went out, you were with people, you had you talked and you laughed and whatever, and then you go home and you play every conversation over in your mind, and you think, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that, I looked stupid, I said things that I wished I didn't say, and that feeling comes up again. Now, and we'll go through that as well. So first of all, if you are laying in bed at night playing the next day up, like you're stressed about something coming up the next day, turn the light on, make a list. Write down what it is you actually need to do tomorrow. Get it out of your head and get it onto a piece of paper. The reason that your head is churning it is because it's like, oh, it hasn't processed it. Get it out of your head onto a piece of paper. If it's not to do with like a to-do list or action points that you can take, if you can't make a to-do list or action point list and get it on paper that way, then journal it out. Journal it out. The other thing is that you can find where the stress is in your body, because all stress, all emotion is somewhere in our body. Find it in our body, tune into it in our body. The thing with emotions, the thing with feelings and thoughts and everything is that we try and problem solve. We try to avoid. It's like, I don't want to feel like this. How can I get away from it? I don't want that to happen. I'll overthink it and I'll turn it into a huge problem. And that's my way of trying to find a solution to the problem. It's like, but what we are doing is trying to avoid a certain thing. We're trying to avoid a problem, a feeling, a situation, emotion, a confrontation, like, which is another feeling, situation, emotion. We're trying to avoid. And the thing to stop avoiding and start welcoming in the yucky stuff. Welcome it in. Now, that's something that isn't, it's like that thing. It's like the solution is always like the last thing you're going to think of doing or want to be doing. It's like, I really want to lose weight. Well, hey, just go to the gym and exercise. Yeah, I don't want to do that. So this is the same with this. It's like if your mind is busy, it's trying to avoid something. What is it trying to avoid? What yucky feeling, what yucky experience? And welcome in that experience and sit in it and feel it. That's the thing with feeling, is that we spend our whole lives trying to avoid feeling things. I don't want to feel embarrassed. I don't want to feel scared. I don't want to feel upset. I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel all these things. And in the meantime, while we're running from that stuff, the only way you can run from the feelings which sit in your body is to get into your head or eat something, or, they're all safety seeking behaviors, and they're all looking for solutions in all the wrong places. So getting out of our head, getting back into our body, feel the feelings. Another thing to do is to actually, because you're kind of tangled up there in your thoughts, you're in your head, you're like, oh, it's all like happening, is to just stop and focus on the actual thought. Just close your eyes and notice what it is that you're actually thinking. Pay attention. There's a thought. Where did it come from? If you actually spend a moment to notice what the thought is and where it came from, you will actually realize that you're not thinking anything. The thoughts are coming into you. You're the observer. Now, how can that be? You are able to actually third-party observe your thoughts. So that's an unusual thing to think, and I found this really fascinating. If you sit and observe your thoughts and watch them and pay attention to where they're coming from, and notice to where they're going to, where are they leaving? So they're coming and they're going. And if you sit like that for a few moments, your mind will slow down and you will become quiet in the mind. And the reason for this is because you have now stepped back out of the thinking and you are now observing your thoughts, which is really, really powerful. Another technique you can do is to use EFT. And I will have spoken about this before. It's very, very effective for a lot of things. If you are feeling like you're overthinking a problem, if you're going into, emotional stuff, like you're feeling terrible about something that happened yesterday, or you're worrying about the future, you can use EFT, which is tapping on, there's meridian points, energy points in your body, based on it's similar to the acupuncture pressure points. And so when we activate these while activating neural pathways, things shift in our mind. So we're able to move ourselves out of certain states of emotion, remove physical pain even, and calm down our mind and shift out of things like that. So the tapping points, we start off with a setup statement and we name the problem. So different to affirmations. Affirmations, you're like, oh, I don't, I'm not an overthinker. I'm a calm person with a calm mind and I think calm thoughts. This is about, like, even though I am an overthinker that stresses the hell out and worries about the future and distresses myself with rumination of the past, I do completely love and accept myself. So you're stating the problem and then stating a positive affirmation after it, but it's a self-affirmation. And you do that a couple of times and then tap through while activating. So overthinking, feeling uncomfortable, can't slow down. And there's all the points of the body and you go right through the fingers as well. And this is something that it takes like 5 minutes, but it does shift something in your body and your mind. A third thing to do with overthinking is to use your, again, it's about recognizing that there are parts of us, and there is a part of you that's overthinking. There's another part of you that can say no. And you can say that out loud, no, and just say no to the thought. Whatever that thought is, no. Yeah, you sounded really stupid. No. Oh, you've got all this stuff to do tomorrow, and, you know, all these emails are piling up. No. Yeah, and, you know, what's going to happen with this person? No. Your ex-partner's already within a new relationship and it's not fair, and no. You've got court cases coming up and it's really stressing you out and your heart feels like it's pounding out of your chest. Even though my heart is pounding out of my chest and breaking right now, I completely love and accept myself. And then you can take that thought, that all that terribilizing, and say no. Breath work, breathing. We spend our whole life just shallow breathing. Now, what's it feel like when you're like, it's like we are so hyped, so pumped with, a lot of us are, you know, on sugar and caffeine and all sorts of things. Otherwise, we've got pressures, we've got stress, we've got all these things bringing us up, elevating us, stimulating us. The TV in the background, our social media, we are continuously being stimulated. How can our brain slow down, switch off, shut down, and be calm if we are so hyper stimulated and hyper aroused? So taking some time to do some breath work, and that is simply, it can be as simple as breathing in for 4, hold, and then just breathe out for as long as you can, as slow as you can, and purse your lips. Fully empty your lungs. And just repeat that a couple of times. Now, it's going with the rhythm. Now, what I've recently taken up, and this is interestingly, I took my son to a playgroup. Now, I have a recent epiphany about time. So I have solved the situation with the money mindset. I've solved that money is not a problem at all. I've solved relationship. I've solved family things and solved like all the things that, you know, emotional stuff that comes up. And I realize I have something to work on still, and that is time. I am what my cousin once, 25 years ago, referred to as a time bandit. It's where I allow the I'm continuously trying to be efficient and productive, and I feel sort of when I'm doing non-productive things, it's difficult for me to let go and let loose into that moment and not be worried about thinking about what I could be doing or should be doing instead. Now, because I have a young child, I decided I was going to go to a playgroup. So I went to a playgroup, and it's a playgroup where everything is like very slow, very routine, and very crafty. So the mums were knitting. We made our own knitting needles, believe it or not, out of wood, which was like, hello, this is new to me. And the next thing you know, I'm knitting a chicken. And I realized that when you focus really hard on something detailed, you have to actually shut your mind down. You cannot focus on knitting while thinking a million thoughts. The second thing that I realized is, at first I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm making this little chicken. You should have seen how proud I was of this chicken. I mean, the thing was this big. I wish I could show it to you. I took it home. But I felt like, look at the chicken I made. Look at the chicken I made. And, you know, like I do so many things in a week, and yet this little chicken gave me joy, and I was not expecting that. So what I did is I took home my knitting needles. I went to Ronnie's, the little discount store, and I bought 4 balls of wool, and I started knitting a blanket. And so what I do now is, I used to sit and scroll on social media on here. You know, I didn't realize how much I was actually doing it. Now I'm sitting down like a grandma, and I'm knitting a blanket. Now I've stuck to something simple, so I just go back and forth kind of thing. But I thought, it's incredible how much my nervous system wants to go and sit down and knit that blanket. And as it grows, I'm like, look how big it is now. And, you know, Nick's really supportive and tells me, wow, that's great. It looks good, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I'm getting my dopamine system is getting rewarded. My mind is calm. I'm focusing on something that is methodical, that needs my attention, because the thing with life at the moment is it's constantly like everything coming at us, and we're not taking that downtime to actually sit. Some people do Sudoku. Some people do crossword puzzles. Some people do, you know, whatever. But the thing is that I find that really, really helpful in terms of getting my head out of all the stuff of the day and just switching off. So you've got journaling, you've got making lists, you've got EFT tapping, and I will do some videos on how to do that in detail. You can do it along with me. You have got observing your thoughts in your mind, watching them and where they go. You have got I can't remember what the rest of the things were. There is another one, which is actually to actually step out of your body and imagine that, you know, take the future situation or the past situation and just dissociate yourself deliberately. So people dissociate when they can't cope with emotions. But if you're aware that you're doing it, you can use it as a tool, a deliberate tool. Like, I'm going to step out of my body and I'm going to observe myself, and I'm going to take it to a situation in the future or in the past, whatever's troubling me on my mind, and I'm going to become an observer, and I can give myself advice. Because the thing is that we need to be supported. We need the support of other people. And with our secular lives and our, you know, family situations where many of us live alone or in very small families, we often don't have that support there. And you are able to use your mind in ways that we probably don't often realize to have, to create a situation of support for ourselves in our mind. And also, I know Napoleon Hill, who is the author of Think and Grow Rich, but it's basically Think and Do Anything. He used to talk about sitting down and creating like a mastermind group in his mind. So he would call in like, you know, this wise counsel and that wise counsel and sit and have a discussion like, in this situation, what do you advise I do, and listen to for the answers. Because if you ask your unconscious mind a question, it will answer. So if you say, you know, what is it that I actually can do to stop this overthinking, then if you sit in quiet, you'll actually create your own answers. And like I said in the beginning of the video, the 3 A's, if you can work on and resolve your adequacy, so if you're feeling inadequate or not good enough, not this enough, not that enough, to be adequate, if you can resolve feelings of being unacceptable or unaccepted to feeling acceptable and accepted just the way you are, perfect just the way you are. And if you can work on your personal power, your ability and your capability, so that you feel that you are capable in all situations, then the future will no longer feel like it needs your overthinking. Overthinking is essentially a safety-seeking behavior. It's a response to feeling unsafe. It's a response to feeling that you are not going to be able to cope, or you're not good enough, or you are going to be rejected. And that is my doorbell. So I am over and out. I'll check the comments in a moment. So if you haven't commented, like, subscribe, share, whatever, and I'll see you next week when I do the live.